Okay, it's the end of the session. I got my buddies here. This is Roxie, and this is Maverick, and this is their roadmap to success. I'm going to see if we can keep them on the couch with me, but I'll probably be solo here in a sec. We primarily worked with Maverick here, but she's such a sweetheart dog. We wanted to work with her as well. This is one of the guardians. Basically, in this video, we're going to basically summarize the stuff we went over in the session. Now, the video above talks about how you can train, help your dog, help condition your dog to like having its nails trimmed, as well as some bonuses about how to put a muzzle on. And I also shared a bunch of other tips about going to the vet that'll help create a positive association. So I'm going to try to summarize the other things. Come, that's passive training we're talking about in a sec. Come, drop, there we go, fetch. Okay, so we sit. That's also passive training, which we'll talk about in a sec. Okay, I can't do this. I have to actually do the video right now, Roxie. Okay, so basically we start off by talking about exercise. These dogs need more exercise. They're a little bit like me, a little bit more insulated than they probably should be for their size. And so basically I talked about really exercise, but before that we talked about structured feeding. We're going to do a feeding exercise actually as soon as we get done with this. But basically I would recommend that they feed the dogs more often if possible. You might want to get like an automated feeder maybe for lunch. So they're for breakfast and for dinner, but not for lunch. That way we can do it when we're not here because we're going to be at work, or the guardians are going to be at work. You could also, I showed him a video to a robot that'll play with your dog and actually can interact and give some toys. And then I talked about different forms of exercise. So your average dog needs about an hour's worth of exercise every day. One of the guardians here is from a not cold climate and does not like going outside here in Nebraska when it's cold. But the dog's going to have the energy one way or the other. So we talked about some creative ways to exercise down. One of them is to chase a laser. Some dogs, it's not healthy to change laser. It's frustrating and it gets them aggravated. These dogs are not that case. They enjoyed chasing it but weren't too intense about it. So the laser is a great way to do it. Going up and down the stairs is another great way to do it. Playing fetch is a great way to burn energy. I like to use pursuit games because it's a more efficient exercise if they're running fast as opposed to walking. Let me see, we also talked about, I didn't talk about this I don't think, but scent games are also something that guardians can do. Have the dogs in the other room, hide some treats around here, and then have them come in and find them. I'm laughing right now because I'm doing this so the guardian doesn't have to remember notes and she's over literally taking notes right now. That's okay, we love it. All right, so I also talked about starting an exercise journal, which is just a piece of paper or a notebook where we write the date for each day. We start a new piece of paper, we start a column for each dog, and we write the times on this side. This will be inverted for you guys. So basically, you write down 8:15 in the morning, maybe we took them for a 20-minute walk. 10:15, maybe we take them, we do the stairs. And exercise the stairs, the laser, and all those things separately. Remember the first time to do it without anything in their stomach and do it to maximum so you know how many times each dog will go up and down the stairs before it says, I ain't doing that anymore. And now you know their maximum. Remember, you want to practice at about 25% to 50% of their maximum number multiple times a day. So you want to have a variety of these different things. If we get an automatic ball launcher, I'd program or set it up somewhere where they can play fetch going up and down the stairs. The little robot that I talked about, if you get one of those, that'll help as well. They have a dog door so they can let themselves in and out. They do get some exercise outside, but we want to up that exercise. Exercise is best done in short spurts throughout the day. So instead of one 2-hour walk is not as good as 4 30-minute walks or 8 20-minute walks or 6 or whatever comes. I'm not a math person. So basically the idea is to start that exercise journal, and every day you annotate the exercise, the time and how many or how long the exercise was. Anytime that they get an behavior that you don't like or something notable happens, when you feed them, you can put that down there as well. And then at the end of the day, you get them, and remember there's 2 energy surges, early in the morning and late in the day. So those are times where you want to get them a little bit more exercise than you normally would, maybe a laser routine in the backyard. And then each guardian gives the dog a letter grade for each dog, A through F. And if the dog get anything but an A, the next day you play around with the elements and get a little bit more, a couple more fetches, and a whole extra game of fetch or whatever it is, until eventually you come across with, you're like, wow, that was an A+ day. And now you know how much exercise your dog needs to burn off that excess energy. Now remember, for the video above, make sure that you're properly exercising your dog and it's nice and relaxed when you do the techniques that are in the video above about trimming or dremeling their nails. Okay, now these dogs do a lot of things that the guardians don't want as a way of getting attention, because for dogs, any attention is ultimately validated. So I was kind of laughing. This is not normal. This is normal for all my clients, but I was just laughing watching it when I first came in here because the dogs would come up and sit down, which is called manding. They would sit in front of their guardian like sitting. Guardians just paid attention to me. Sit. And so the dog would, I'm going to resit. I'm sitting. The dog's trying to say, hey, I'm doing something you want. Most people have to work really hard to get that. And the guardians have got dogs that are doing that, which is awesome. But we do need to recognize and reward them for doing that. Otherwise, they're going to go doing other things that we don't want, like jumping up on us, pawing at us, barking at us, nudging us for attention. If the dog does that and we do it, we're telling the dog, you're in charge of me, because when you tell me what to do, I do it. So that makes the dog feel responsible for me. Also tells the dog that listening to me is optional. So it doesn't have to listen to me. And when I tell it what to do, it's not going to do it because it doesn't respect me as an authority figure. And when I don't listen to the dog, that confuses the dog into thinking that, or into being stressed out. It doesn't confuse them, it just stresses them out because they think they're in charge of us, but we're putting ourselves in danger, and then they get more and more worked up, and it just is a vicious cycle. So we talked about, so exercising the dogs is going to be really important to make it easier to fix their problems, but it's not going to fix the problems. We talked about enforcing rules and adding structure to accomplish what I call flipping the leader-follower dynamic. So the first thing that we went over were rules. The guardians were really worried that I was going to say you can't have your dog in the furniture, which I did say that they can't have the dog in the furniture. Only for a period of time, it's not forever. But just like us, if I'm a little kid and I show that I'm not worthy of being left home alone because I throw a party, my parents next time are going to have grandma there. I actually speak from experience. And then if they try again after a couple of years and I seem to have turned a corner, I'm responsible, and I throw another party, well then I'm clearly not ready for that responsibility. Or if they go out to dinner and I don't throw a party, then I'm showing that I am responsible. And they might try giving me a little bit more access, a little bit more privileges. So that should be how all these rules are looked at. So the first rule, no furniture for 30 days or as long as the problem's still going on. Remember, if they're on the furniture when they get off, touch their nose with the treat and throw it on the ground. When they lick it up, say the word off. And then grab an X mat, the letter X, M-A-T-S, and put it on next to you on the couch. The X mat will prevent the dog from getting on the couch. So you'll have to get probably 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 or 6 X mats. But this way, when you get up to go to the bathroom, you put it here, and that blocks the dog. It's like a seat holder. And the dogs need 30 days of not doing the old behavior before they can start a new behavior pattern. Now, if she likes to play fetch like she is when I'm holding the ball, I'm going to wait for her to sit or lay down. As soon as she does, then I throw it. That's my way of saying that when you sit or lay down, drop. That's passive training too, and make sure we do that. And for him, he doesn't like to drop, and the guardians have taken things away from him, and that reinforces not dropping. So remember, when he has something he's allowed to have in the mouth, just go over, touch a treat to his nose, and wait for him to drop it. Don't tell him to drop, just wait. As soon as he drops it, pop it in his mouth, and don't touch the item. And after you've done that enough, after a while, the dog will just come over and do what she just did and spit the ball out. Now, as soon as she SITs, I'm going to pick this up and throw it to fetch, and that's a reward. That tells her that SITing is a great way to get the person to do something. But what a lot of guardians do, and I'm pretty sure these guardians do as well, the dog jumps up on them, and they pet the dog. Well, you just told the dog, jumping up on me is a great way to ask me to pet you. What they do with you is what they're going to do with everybody. And so for me, they were in my personal space and all this fun stuff. I don't mind because I work with dogs, but other people would mind. And so we need to create boundaries. Nothing wrong with the dog being on your lap if you invite the dog. Right now, these dogs are making the invitation because they don't perceive it as your lap, they perceive it as their lap. So I want the guardians to play a little hard to get with the dogs, and I want them to start earning their affection, which will boost their self-esteem, increase their respect for their humans as an authority figure, and help them practice that particular activity. Okay, so some of the rules we talked about: not being allowed on the furniture, sitting at the door. Remember, go to the door, say sit once, the dog doesn't sit, walk away for a minute after one, and make sure you're sitting down when you walk away. When you go back and tell them to sit one time. If they don't sit, this time I'll walk away for 2 minutes. Next time, if they don't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away for 4 minutes. If they don't sit with 3 seconds next time, 8 minutes. I keep on double the length of time. And I only give the dog 3 seconds to comply, and I only say it once. The more you say it, the less you mean it, and you'll train your dog to not listen to you or not respect you because you repeat the command over and over and don't follow through. Always following through is one of the dirty secrets of dog behavior. This little whimpering, whining is frustration why you're not throwing the ball. I could tell her to SIT over and over again, but if I wait for her to SIT and then immediately throw it, that's a form of operant conditioning. And this is a great thing to do because it teaches the dog itself. Instead of me micromanaging and telling the dog to SIT, when the dog does the right thing, then it gets the reward. And after enough repetitions, the dog will start offering that right thing over and over again to get the reward. And that teaches the dog, I come, I drop the ball, I sit down, and then I wait for them to throw it. Now, she's putting her chin on my hand. She's trying to ask me in a delicate, nice way. Now, one other thing, real quick about the exercise, I think taking giving some green beans with their food and feeding them more often will help take some weight off. I'm a little bit worried about her because she's got a little bit of a hitch in her giddy up, and the vets haven't been able to figure out what it is. And carrying extra weight is going to exacerbate that. So for her, be a little bit careful when it comes to exercising on the stairs and those other things, because we don't want to make it worse. We want to use the exercise in a positive way, but we don't want to make a chronic issue. So if you notice she's limping a little bit more, add that sort of stuff in your exercise journal as well. Okay, we want to find the butter zone. Now she's doing this. We could call that, you might want to call that ask. So when she does that, you pet her and say ask, or you throw the ball when she does that and then say ask, say ask and then throw the ball. And then it actually teaches her this is a way to ask me to throw the ball. But right now I'm just going to wait for her to SIT and then I'll throw it immediately. Okay, so other rules: not being allowed to be in the kitchen when we're eating food, not being allowed to be near any human who's when we're preparing food, not being allowed to be near any human who's eating food. Let me see. Fetch. Now she just lumbered away. She barely ran away. Okay, so it is what it is. Let me see, what else? Make sure that you're not letting the dog go through the stairs, go down the stairs, come, or this, if I pet her, then I'm telling her that I like her jumping up on me. So what I'm doing is I'm just I am pulling myself away. I'm recusing myself. There's another word I'm looking for. I can't, it's on the tip of my tongue, it'll come. Off. So I didn't like her doing that, so I retracted the word I was looking for and disengaged. And then as soon as she got off, I petted her immediately. So that teaches her that getting off is something that human or off the furniture is something the human will reward. Jumping off causes them to shut down. Now, now that I'm thinking about this, come, drop. Now, if I forget, if at the very if somewhere on this right up above, I don't have a link to stopping a dog from jumping up on someone when they come to the door, message me and I can add the link. But it's a technique where we step on the leash and we kind of recreate the situation, help the dog practice, use the same form of operant conditioning. As soon as the dog sits, we pet it, we turn to pet it, and as soon as it gets excited, we turn away from it and ignore it. It's a great video, and I'll link it up. If I forget, please message me and I'll add it in there. Okay, so we also went over structure. Structure, I accomplished the structure, or at least start accomplishing the structure by adding it to petting and rewarding. Remember, anything where a dog is doing when we pet it is what we're rewarding. So if a puppy jumps up on our shin and we pet it, we're saying the best way to get a human to pet you is to jump up on the shin. So what we do instead is the puppy jumps up on us, we retract, we freeze, we look up, and we become boring. Dog gets down and we reach over and pet it. We pet what we want, we recuse ourselves or disengage when they do things we don't want. We don't punish, we don't yell, we don't chastise, we just disengage. All right, so for the structure, what I like to do is what I call petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is if she's nudging me, she wants my attention. If I pet her when she's nudging me, I'm telling her the nudging is a way to ask me for attention. So if she's nudging me, what I would do instead is say, sit, sit. Sit. That's passive training. This is petting with a purpose. We're still with petting with a purpose right now. She was trying to tell me to do something to get her attention, or she wanted my attention. I told her if you want my attention, you have to do something to earn it. You have to pay for it. And you pay for it through a currency of obedience. After a while, and if she's already sitting, ask her to come and sit over here or ask her to lay down. She has to do something to change her state. After a while, what will happen is she will come and sit in front of me to prepay for attention. I talked about this earlier. They're already doing that. So when they do that, make sure you recognize, reach over and pet her and say sit, or whatever the command word is. Pet under the chin whenever possible and say sit and only sit. Don't say good sit. Oh, what a smart dog you are, Roxy. You sat down. Say sit and only sit. And then you can pet her as long as you want after that. Now, after a while, basically what we're saying is if you tell the human what to do, nothing happens anymore. Telling the human, that's a leadership quality. But if the human tells you what to do and you do it, you get a reward. Well, that helps motivate them into a follower's mindset. Asking is a follower's mindset. And what will happen is she'll come sit in front of you and prepay for the attention by sitting down. When she does that, make sure we do recognize that. Now, I used a watchword for this. I call it, for petting with a purpose, I call it paycheck. So if somebody comes in the room and sees that I'm petting Roxy and she's standing, they might assume that I forgot to ask her to pet with a purpose. So I say paycheck. I stop petting. I say sit. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I continue to do what I'm doing. If she were to sit, then I reach over and pet her. Then I would tell the person, I asked her to sit before you open the door. When you open the door, she stood up, and I continued petting her. And David said that's allowed. And I'm David, and I say it is allowed. So basically, what we want to do is we won't realize how often we pet without a purpose. And that's why we say paycheck. Now, I also want to make sure that even if you want to pet the dog, you're still asking the dog to sit, or better yet, commanding the dog to sit. And when it sits, you're rewarding the dog for that particular action. Fetch. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Okay, so petting with a purpose is one of the easiest things you can do. It'll take you about a month to get in the habit of doing it, but once you do, every time you pet your dog, it becomes a micro dog training session. Drop. Now, passive training, which is what he did, is waiting for the dog to really what she just did there. She brought me the ball and she dropped it, and I petted her and said drop. Passive training, waiting for the dog to voluntarily offer you behavior without any influence. Come. Another example of it. So every time your dog comes without being called, pet it and say come. Every time it sits next to you, pet it and say sit. Every time it lays down, pet it and say crash or chill or whatever your word is. And so this way we're rewarding the dog for desired actions and behaviors. At the beginning of this video, we talked about rewarding dogs for doing things we don't want. Well, if we just are conscious of what we do and we add a little bit of structure to this, we can motivate the dogs to offer the behaviors that we want and stop offering the behaviors that we don't want. Now, we also talked about petting with and for petting with purpose or passive training, I usually say testify. That means you're missing an opportunity to reward. So you can say testify or reward or whatever it is, but come up with one word that means you're missing an opportunity to reward your dog for doing something we want. I'd also like the guardians to come up with a list of the official command words. One of the guardians in this house has an accent, and sometimes the accent takes over. It's hard for dogs to hear because they do hear pronunciation. So if we're saying the very thick accent, we might want to say Creole or something that means you're using your accent. We'd also come up with a word. If I'm saying come here and the word is come, the person says vocabulary and I go come. So if we consolidate our words, it makes it easier for them to understand what we want. So try to use only one word commands and a singular version, not come here, come here, over here girl, dog's name. There's a whole bunch of variables. Now we make them listen for all these words where it's just easier if we give them one word for each command. Now, I also like the guardians to go to YouTube and find dog training tricks and teach them some dog tricks. I'd like the guardians to alternate. Week 1, Guardian A teaches them how to roll over. So she takes the dogs separately, teach them one at a time, come up with a fun command word, and instead of saying roll over, maybe say hurricane. The dog flops down and rolls over. Again, fun command words, beneficial. And then every time we want to feed the dog or pet the dog or do anything, it has to hurricane. By the end of the week, that dog's hurricaning for everything. And so basically teach the dog how to do it separately, and then teach the other guardian what the command is, and then emphasize it all week long. The next week, Guardian B takes over, and then that guardian teaches a different trick. If you're teaching roll over, the next trick should always be play dead. And I usually say bang, and then the dog rolls over, and it's funny. And dogs read facial expressions, so if they do that, they're more motivated to want to do that. So all week long, you want to be fed, bang. You want to go outside, bang. And then we take turns throughout the week, throughout 2 months, and if each guardian teaches 4 new tricks or commands, I know. Well, then at the end of that 2-month period, the dog now know 8 new commands, and that will boost their self-esteem. It will help increase their respect for the humans as authority figures. I'm saying because the humans are over here, and it also help them practice that particular behavior, and it just helps in a lot of different ways. But if she whines at me and I throw it, then I'm teaching her whining is the best way to get me to throw it. Sit. Now that was a little jealousy. Good reminder. Sit. Fetch. So if I'm petting him, she's jealous. She'll come over and try to insert herself. And if I pet them both, then I'm rewarding her for stealing from him, essentially. So if I'm petting him, what I'm going to do is kind of hold her off to the side. I hook the collar like this. Well, I don't know if you see it off camera, but I hook around the collar and I stiff arm that dog. And I continue petting the original dog as long as I want. When I get done, if that dog protested, I don't pet her at all. But if it didn't, when I get done, then I try and give it my full attention. So the dog can't steal or tell me what to do. Now, something else we like to do is a version of what I call Coffee for Closers. If you haven't ever seen the movie and don't understand the reference, go to YouTube and search for Coffee for Closers. It's a movie. You'll just see the scene, and it's an awesome scene. Basically, what it involves is paying for performance. Most people go out of the way to give each dog a treat, even though one dog performs really well and the other performs really poorly, they get the same reward. Well, that takes away the motivation. So what I would do is start pulling out a treat and saying, come. Whoever comes and sits gets the treat. Whoever comes second doesn't get the treat. Doesn't get anything. After a while, they start, if they come at the same time, which they actually did when I do this, then I would treat both of them, tear the treat in half and give them both a half treat. But if one of them gives me an A+ effort, I'm going to reward that one. The one who gives a D+ effort doesn't get any reward. Hopefully, after enough repetitions, that dog's like, I better get my butt over there and be first so I can get the reward. Now you get them competing to be obedient as opposed to competing to be disobedient, which is what's going on now. Let me see. So I went over the escalating consequences. First one is to hiss. Second one is to stand up abruptly, turn to face. Your dog stops moving, take 2 steps backwards, pause for 1 second, go back to do what you're doing. Third one is to march deliberately at the dog until it turns sideways or greater, then stop and pivot, or then stop. And I went through it with you. If you forget, let me know. I'm kind of jumbling it up a little bit here. If you don't know what they are, then you hire me. I'm happy to come to your house and show you how to do it. Let me see. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? I'm probably forgetting a lot. I cover a lot in 3 hours, and this one, at this point, we've been at about 4 hours. That's okay. But if you have questions, problems, or things stop working, please let me know. Please text me or call me. If I don't hear from you, I assume that means everything's going wonderfully. In our society, we call and complain when there's a problem. Things are going right. We don't. And so I can usually help with a quick phone call or text. I don't care if it's 5 seconds after I walk out this door or 5 years from now. I probably won't remember in 5 years from now, so just text me a picture of the dogs and just say, hey, remember you worked with Roxie and Maverick and we had a question, we moved to a new house and now they're doing this. I can usually help with. Now, if I need to come out, we'd have to charge you for it, but a lot of times I can do it over the phone. Okay, Roxie. Come here, sweetheart. Come on up here. Come on up here. Roxie, come here. Come on. Come on. Oh, you're going to lose the treat. Well, this is Maverick and this is Roxie, and this is the roadmap to success. Remember, come here, Roxie. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you need it.